yes, you're in the football market, but you're in the business market.
Yeah. And he goes, there's no such thing as a unique message, just unique messengers.
I think if I had to sum it up in one sentence, it would genuinely be just believing in yourself. In this episode, we touch on how to grow your business in a populated market, and that certainly is one for private coaching specifically. It's extremely saturated, and we go into depth of the lessons that we've learned and sort of share our journey on how you can use the market to your advantage. And we shared some very good tips and tricks in this episode. I think it certainly felt a little bit scattered as we discussed multiple topics at once and kept trying to revert back to sort of the fundamental point of how to actually grow in a populated market. So there's some important messages that you'll get throughout the episode. So go and enjoy. Again, please leave a review or some feedback wherever, whether you're listening on Spotify or watching on YouTube, and enjoy.
Good morning, boys.
Good morning.
How are we all this morning?
I'm good.
Yeah, good.
I'm feeling nice. Back again around the table to waffle.
Yeah, waffle for another hour straight. We got got quite an interesting topic to talk about, like every week.
I swear, I was just going to say, I swear you say this every single week.
That's my go-to phrase. Yeah. Interesting topic to talk about. But today we're going to have a little chat about how do you grow a business in an extremely populated and saturated market.
Yeah.
And I think that's there's a lot of takeaways to get from this episode.
I think it'll be
experiences.
I think it'll be a good topic to discuss, and we don't really advertise it, but we offer a consultation service alongside, obviously, the main private service that we offer for the players. And that's one of the most common questions we get from coaches that are, in the position to start up or have been going for a few months. That's their big question: is how do you grow in a saturated market?
Yeah.
And I'm excited to dive into sort of.
So I suppose what actually might be nice is if you give like a short answer and then we'll go into like a longer, more detailed answer. So if someone was to ask you, how do you do that? In a sentence or two, what would you say? I
think it's worth a bit of a disclaimer before we get talking, isn't it? Like we can only really share it from our point of view.
Of course,
we don't sit here and we don't,
claim to
label ourselves as experts or gurus. We've just learned a lot in a short period of time, and if sharing our story and being transparent with the lessons we've learned can help anybody, whether it be listening or we just listening or watching, then we're doing our job, aren't we? I think to answer the question though, I think if I had to sum it up in one sentence, it would genuinely be just believing in yourself.
Yeah.
Just believing in the service that you're putting out, and that itself should take you far, really. So
yeah, I suppose if someone goes ahead and asks, I'm having a hard time doing that, and that can touch on, even in episode 1 we was talking about imposter syndrome a little bit. What would your response be to I'm having a difficult time kind of believing in myself and believing in the business model?
I think first of all is understanding and acknowledging that those feelings are completely normal.
Right.
Because I think one of the biggest things is people start to feel those emotions, not really
kind of shy away from them.
Shy away from it. If you're young, you might not have recognised those feelings before. It might be a new experience. So I think the first biggest point is acknowledging that those feelings are normal. You're bound to feel them, and once you become sort of, in a way, it's becoming at peace with those feelings. You sort of use those feelings to drive you forward and use it as a positive instead of a negative. And there's anyone will tell you in business there is complete mixed emotions every single day. But as soon as, and I'm certainly still learning this, but as soon as you try and channel all those emotions, feelings, worries, pressures, and channel it in the right way, then you can almost use that to drive you and accelerate your business forward. Yeah. So my biggest point in the beginning would be to acknowledge that what you're feeling is normal and try and understand your feelings properly. And try and rationalise your worries. And I remember at the beginning, we had so many conversations, and I was worrying about 101 different things, and you could guarantee 99 of them were just irrational worries. No need to worry. It was just pointless me even putting energy and attention into. So I think as soon as you sort of rationalise every worry, you'll actually realise that there isn't much here that I should be worried about. And I guess alongside all of that is the key message of just believing in yourself, believing in that you're capable of achieving it, because you're no different to anybody at the highest level, whether it be in football coaching specifically or even business in general or anywhere. You're no different. We're all humans on the planet. So
I suppose that's like a nice message, isn't it? It's that anyone can really do it.
100%.
But you're talking about that kind of like logical and like rational mindset.
Yeah.
Do you think that's something you just had from the get-go, or do you think that's something like over the years you've developed? Obviously it must be more sharper and better now, but do you think it's something you always had like kind of there in your mind?
I think it's more of a case of you're either a person that can deal with it, or you're a person that can't deal with it. If you can't deal with it, then maybe the whole journey isn't for you.
Like running the business.
Yeah, if you find out that you can do it, then you sort of learn along the way through mistakes, through, whatever it may be, through different setbacks, through different challenges.
Yeah.
But you could only sort of take on those pressures and that sort of experience if you're the type of person that can withstand that. And I think you don't walk into business and know instantly that you're able to deal with everything, but you'll know whether you're the type of person that doesn't mind getting thrown all this and you can deal with everything that's thrown at you.
I think like personality is a big kind of factor in becoming a successful businessman, isn't it?
Personality and self-awareness, I'd say. Yeah,
and this is something like we've had a little bit of a chat about listening to. You introduced me to the Stephen Bartlett podcast, and
I listen to it every morning without fail.
It is really good, and I should listen to it more.
You should.
But it was in the car with you, and I listened to one episode with who was
Joe Wicks.
Joe Wicks, that's the one. Yeah,
I'm on that one at the minute. Actually,
it's a good episode, isn't it?
Yeah.
And one thing I gathered, like even within 5 minutes of listening to him, is just how like self-aware and reflective he is as a person. And God, like I think that is really a crucial part of being a good businessman as well, isn't it? Or like knowing what your weaknesses are and not like shying away from them. I think so many people in general kind of neglect or don't want to accept that. So but it was interesting to see that, and
because Stephen Bartlett is, I have never come across or listened to a guy who's as critically and brutally honest about the flaws that he carries than that guy. And I think to get to that point, you've seriously got to be in touch with your mind and your emotions.
I bet if you like analyze like the top CEOs, I bet they're all like that. They all have that same mindset probably. They must do.
Yeah. Whether it's something that they had already or whether it's something that they've developed through the journey and over time. Yeah, but I'm sure it's definitely a
it's a crucial element, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think
something that they'll all share.
So, given how like obviously now, as of the date of recording, 31st of March, coaching's back on for you guys.
It is.
Yes. So that's good to know.
Yeah.
But then obviously you guys are working now, so and busy with that. So how much time like of the week or even of the day do you guys kind of spend consciously or unconsciously reflecting or trying to be self-aware of like the business and yourself? And
you know when I do it?
When's that?
It's in the car.
Is it?
Yeah.
On the way to work,
the
on the way
car
home?
is like my little safe place where, I will, because we do quite a lot of travelling. So you can expect, about 40 minutes travelling in the morning, 40 minutes travelling to sessions or venues, etc. So I get a good
few hours.
Definitely get a good hour in the whole day. And in the car, I just find it relaxing to put a podcast on, sit there, and albeit concentrate still on driving and not crashing. Although there's been a few close calls when I've been in my own little world. But I just use that time because the second we come through the door at the office, we don't have that time.
It's like
it's taken away from us. It isn't thinking about me and Jack. It's thinking about all our players, all our parents, all our coaches. So it certainly isn't thinking about me and Jack. When we're on the pitch, the focus is primarily the players, and then it's the parents. And again, nothing to do with me and Jack. And if you think about it, getting in the office at 8:30 and then working till 8 o'clock at night, you've got about 12 hours there where out the whole day there's been nothing personally with any sort of attention put on myself.
Reflecting on
myself. So I use the morning and in between sort of going from the office to
So it's,
sessions
for you,
on the pitch.
it's kind of more of like a broken thing. It's not in like one sitting. It's kind of scattered throughout the day.
Just sort of as and when, really.
As and when you have the time.
Yeah. I'd love to, and because I know you're super big on meditation, aren't you?
Touch on that with you. Like you have a power hour every morning, don't you?
Yeah. I don't know who I must have read it somewhere, but I just allocate kind of from the minute I get up, and an hour of that is me time, and I'll allocate for that meditation. And more recently, like, because I realised after I was on the pitch with you guys how like immobile I am, so stretching and a bit of yoga. But it's time where I won't touch my phone until I've done that hour.
Nice.
But it's important, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that time would probably look different for everybody, but certainly when you are dealing with all the stresses and pressures, it's important that you do have a bit of time to reflect and I think chill with yourself.
However you do it, I think the main aim is to sort of figure out what you like as a person.
Yeah.
And then figure out whether the whole journey of business is for you.
Yeah.
Because growing in a saturated market is obviously much, much, much harder than growing in a market that's untouched. I mean, chances are of an untouched market are very, very slim.
Yeah.
But, my point is growing in a very saturated market takes some type of person.
Yeah, definitely. I think just to like counter that point though, and we'll touch on this, it's a brilliant thread by a guy called Nick Huber, and it's a lot about kind of like growing in a saturated market.
I saw that you retweeted it, didn't you?
Yeah. I'm like massive on like business Twitter. Like I'll eat that stuff up like it's no one's business. I'm a sucker for it. We're like, oh my god. But so you were saying, growing in a saturated market is much harder than it is growing in like an untouched market.
Yeah.
But I think he talks about this thing of competition's a good thing.
Yeah.
He says it means if there's competition there, it means there's money to be made. So like I guess that's just like a counter to some people kind of look for, I'm starting a business. What's something that no one's ever done before? And is that maybe a wrong approach? I'm not sure. Maybe it's a good idea to look at something that's already been done and then look at the flaws and weaknesses.
Well, I mean, I say it whenever I'm speaking with any other business person or someone who's trying to get into business. I say the world's been going for around 4-point-something billion years. Like chances of a new idea are very, very slim.
Yeah,
it may not even happen. But there's sort of that element. But then, if the market is so saturated, like you've got to think that's tough. Yes, there's money to be made in it because it shows people it's something in demand, but that's very tough. Very tough.
So then I guess obviously you guys are football coaches and football is literally the biggest sport in England. So then it is a massively saturated market. So explain a little bit about how you guys like kind of broke into that massively populated market and any like fears, concerns you had. Like how was the process of like going into it at such a young age as well?
I think the initial approach was purely led off passion. There wasn't really any knowledge. There certainly was no business knowledge there. It was just all passion led. And
so it wasn't particularly money driven, you could say. It was passion driven.
I still don't think it's money driven at this point because we'll touch on a little bit later on the money side and stuff. But there's ways that we could be making so much money. There's ways that personally we could be taking more money, but we don't because that's not in our interest. Our interest is to grow something that impacts and influences as many. It's meaningful as many influences as many players and parents as possible. That's exactly what we want to achieve. So. That's always been the same from day one, and it was very much passion led and still is passion led, but that's how we sort of went into it. And because we were so passion led, we sort of had blinkers on and it sort of blocked out all those worries, concerns, fears.
It's only now where I sort of sit back and realise like how popular it is.
Yeah.
Because like Adam said, when we were first starting out, we was in just focused and channeled on this is what we want, this is what we're going to achieve. We sort of blocked out everything else that was happening.
I mean, I don't know in Greater Manchester specifically, but I mean, there must be so many coaching companies.
Thousands.
I mean, they must all be doing decent. Like, they're all good coaching companies. So, like, I guess I want to know, like, how you guys have built something that stands out. This is like, I don't know whether you told me or I overheard the conversation, but it was it something where if you just type, football coaching or private football coaching?
Yeah. So we had a phone call off a player in Iceland, and whenever we get sort of attention like that, I'm always really, really curious to find out, how have you come across us?
Yeah.
So anyway, this player in Iceland had come across because he'd seen, and this is such a good point, he'd seen private training in the UK, not one of our videos, but he'd just seen a coach deliver private sessions. And I don't think it's something it's not that popular over in Iceland.
All right.
So he was like, this is so cool, I need to go to the UK and, I need to train like this.
Yeah.
So he literally Googled private coaches in the UK, and we've never put money in Google. No. So we've never advertised on Google, but he said your website was the first that I came across.
Really?
So I clicked into the website, saw it, made the inquiry and called you. And I was like, wow.
That's class,
like that,
isn't
it? That was just such a great feeling. And it was just, it took me by surprise, but it was a brilliant feeling.
But I think it just shows that, though, that you've got to sort of build something that you're proud of.
Yeah.
Like a big thing for us is customer experience. So it's the whole experience of, first off, finding us, booking with us, everything you see to do with us, then actually coming in,
on the
doing
pitch,
the session, and then even after it, like, do you get cared for? Does it look like we care about you? Like, the whole customer experience is just massive for us.
Yeah.
So it's just like that. If the guy from Iceland had clicked on our website and it was all over the place, nothing was in its right place straight away, it's a bad experience. They'll jump off it and they'll find the next site.
Yeah.
So we've put so much attention into making sure website looks good, the quality of our social media is high, the videos we're putting out are good and a good value. So if they call the phone, it's getting picked up, or if at least it's not getting picked up, they're getting a call back within the hour. Like, little details like that really do go a long way.
Definitely.
And to relate it to the point I was making, is something that we was aware enough and sort of put our mind at ease, is we knew that it was good, we were going into a saturated market. However, what you can do in a saturated market is use that to your advantage, because it's raising awareness to the industry that you're in. So like this player in Iceland, and he didn't tell me, so I can't even give credit to the coach who it was, but he just saw a coach doing the session.
Yeah.
So that raised awareness to private training. So then it's led him to search private training. And because we've put so much attention into making sure it's visually pleasing, making sure we're accommodating for customers, like, we appeared at the top. So then he's able to so that coach has actually sold our service for somebody.
Indirectly, really.
Indirectly.
That's class, isn't it?
And I think that's one of
I think
the
that
biggest...
goes back to your point that competition can be
good
good.
thing. Yeah,
because a lot of
true.
the times it can raise awareness around one-to-one coaching.
Yeah.
And then if you're doing something right, you get found.
Because we always say it, because it's extremely populated, and you're right. I'd say there's thousands of either coaching companies or at least people that offer one-to-one training in Greater Manchester alone. And I think you're completely right. Like, it's such a market that is extremely populated, but use it to your advantage. Use that awareness to direct the traffic to yourself.
Yeah.
And not being afraid to stand out. Like, we're cool with trying to stand out. In fact, we actively try and do it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So then, if so many coaches are doing the same thing, then how do you guys go about innovating new ideas or coming up with ways to, like, stay ahead of the game? Because that's what it appears to be with, fresh content all the time and these ideas. Like, how are you guys, like, constantly churning out so many, like, good ideas?
I think you've got to sort of try and constantly be reading the market.
Yeah.
So constantly be looking at what everyone else is doing and sort of seeing what works for somebody else, what doesn't, and then not copying them, but you can use everyone else as market research then.
Yeah.
And you can let other people research sort of like what's working. And it's worth noting, if one thing works for somebody, doesn't mean it's going to work for you right away.
Yeah.
So don't use that and be like, well, that's working for somebody, it must work for me.
You,
Like, that might not be the case, but you can definitely use what's already going on around you to see what's working and what isn't. And then you can sort of build up from there.
I think the idea. What's your take on, like, reading the market and then imitating what's good? Because I'm kind of like, I've read a lot about this in terms of content creation, and there's a really good book by a guy called Austin Kleon. I'm not sure if I mentioned him on the podcast before, and he has a book called Steal Like an Artist, and how he kind of says, and it's back to your original point, how long's the world been round? You can't reinvent the wheel. So he says the best artists or the best creators, they'll steal from what's already good out there and then put their own unique spin on it. Was that your approach to? Because I guess coaching itself it's similar on that level, but then your guys' content is what is different and what stands out. So is that what you guys did? Kind of put your personal AJ brand spin on it.
And it's starting more so now as I start to have more time to sort of look into the market a bit more. But you don't even necessarily have to steal from the market you're in. Like look at every other market. Yeah. So there's
so
been,
for example, could you give any examples as to what other markets you've took from?
Barbering with the booking system.
All right, okay.
So
really?
literally booking in with a barber. Like you're going to book in with one person who's offering one service that is at one venue. That is exactly what you're doing
for coaching.
For one-to-one coaching, you're booking in for one service. The only thing that differs is obviously the name and the service. Like that's the only thing that differs.
But the operation of it runs the same.
Yeah.
Or similar at least.
Yeah,
things like email marketing. If I get a good email from a clothes company or I like the style of a clothes company, I'll have a look at that and think, well, could I fit that into what we offer and what our brand is? And then if I can, I'll go do that.
Yeah. So content-wise, Ocean Beach IB for a little bit because of the vibrant vibe, and you go onto it and you watch one of their videos and you know
there,
whether it's Ocean
Beach Dubai or it's their video.
So it's sort of just that looking further afield. It doesn't just have to, and your point is correct, by the way. Steal like an artist. I like that.
Yeah.
Because there's no idea is new anymore.
No.
Even if you see something for the first time, chances are the person behind that has also seen it for the first time elsewhere and have that idea of, well, this looks good. I'll do that for my business and put my spin on it. So it is like no idea is new, and it's right. You got to look further afield. And
I think as well, though, it's worth noting that you have to and you hear it all the time, putting your own twist on it, adding your own flavour, which you do have to, because ultimately you can't fake somebody else forever. It's just either you'll start not enjoying it, people will see through you, you won't be providing the service that you're proud of because it's not being stemmed from you. So everything has still got to be stemmed from you.
And that is a big problem, especially with one-to-one coaching.
Is it?
If you just look through Instagram, like everybody just looks the same.
Yeah.
And
I get what you mean.
And it doesn't.
So there's no standing out in that way.
No. So if you're just looking the same,
then
people are bored
grow?
of it now.
Yeah,
People are bored of seeing the same stuff.
So do you think maybe just a personal question? Do you think there's a bit of need for change in the way content is looking in that particular market?
Definitely, but I'm also aware like it's only recently our content's starting to change.
Yeah,
we're bringing you on board and stuff, and we've only been bringing you on board because the budget's there, because we've grown and we've expanded. So it's hard. It's hard at the beginning.
Yeah.
But you've got to try and, I don't know whether it's the way you capture your content or whether it's the way you edit it or the way you do your photos or whatever it is, you have to start looking different. That's sort of the first step, and that's sort of the biggest tip that I could give.
Yeah, that's all external though. All those factors are external. You've equally got to put the same attention to standing out internally.
Okay. Yeah, that's
because
a good point.
The amount of coaches or the amount of parents that have come from other coaches and have literally just been surprised by the fact they get a reminder 24 hours before the session. And we're like, what are you surprised about that? But genuinely,
for you, it's just like a given at this point,
for us, it's a standard that has to be met. We want players to be reminded, have that convenience of a little polite reminder each session. It just adds to the overall service. And as much as Jack's right in all those factors he mentioned, and that's probably because he's very much on the marketing side, his attention is very much external anyway. My attention's very much internally. So as much as you try and differentiate and stand out to the outside world, whether that be through attracting new customers, if you've got that side of the business which is booming and brilliant, But then they make the inquiry and it all goes to pot. Like you can't communicate with them well. You're double booking, or you're not turning up at the time you said, or you're not early and you're prepared, or your emails aren't going out on time, or your reminders aren't there. Like
None of the
all
rest
that's
matters,
all the effort that you've put into the outside of it is just crumbling to rubbish on the inside. So I think the message remains the same. However, you've got to be putting that attention into both. So you've almost got to break it down into external and internal. Likewise, if your internal's brilliant, but you're never actually getting that message across externally, you won't attract new customers. You won't attract new players. It's not. I wouldn't say it's ever pointless, because same situation. I'm sure I've used this analogy on the podcast before about painter and decorators that don't even have social media
just because of word of mouth.
Just because of word of mouth.
To sum that up, though, is if everything internally is class, you'll only ever go so far through word of mouth.
Yeah, I get you.
Which is good. It's how we started, word of mouth.
Proper
but if you want to go further afield, that's where you've got to
For
start.
our first 4 or 5 coaches and our first 4 or 5 staff members, it was pretty much all word of mouth led.
Yeah. But if you want to go further afield, then you've got to start
looking at those external.
Yeah.
Because you'll only stay in your own area. Fortunately, now we're across Greater Manchester, but we started in Rochdale. So off word of mouth, it was brilliant in Rochdale. Word of mouth didn't get us to Bolton or to Cheadle or to Stockport.
That required the external.
That was all external, because then you're drawing attention in those areas from things like your social media.
But I guess if anyone's listening, the reason why you'd want to listen to a podcast called Growing in a Saturated Market is probably because you're starting off.
Yeah.
So to start off, biggest sort of tip we could give is get your internal right first.
Yeah.
Get your internal. That'll then build up sort of
how you want your external to look.
Customer base, and then
like the foundation.
You'll build up the foundation, you'll get your customer base, you'll then start to use the money that generates to sort of buy into the external, because it's costly. Like I said, getting you on board to sort of capture everything takes money, takes time.
And it's a huge risk as well, because I know personally, I'll be completely honest with sharing it with you, Nath, one of the biggest reasons that holds us back from actually employing you is how it's pretty much an expense.
It's not directly
you don't bring in direct income.
But that's why you do it after you've smashed your internal, because you've got utter faith in the internal now. So you know that you get that shown to as many people as possible, that when they come in, you've got them then.
Yeah.
Because you've worked so hard on your internal.
And again, you can put these strategies and systems in place that, external and internal, for it to be brilliant, and you can put the strategies in place to make it really work. But ultimately, it boils down to caring. That's what, and I say this to every single coach that I speak with, every single time I get into a conversation like this, is it ultimately boils down to genuinely caring.
Yeah.
Because all that requires a lot of effort, requires a lot of time, and in all honesty, doesn't really generate much money for you.
No.
Maybe when you get it right, it can do,
yeah.
but learning and figuring out what works for you is quite a slow, painful process. And what's going to get you through that is caring and being proud for something by yourself, caring for the players, and just generally putting a lot of attention to detail in something that you believe in.
Yeah.
100%.
No, that's really good. That there's a couple of, I guess, the key takeaways I took from both of you in that, especially Jack in that way, is that thing of, so many people have that tunnel vision, don't they? Of, I need to grow in this market. But you were talking about taking inspiration from the barber kind of market. What was the other market you said? You were talking
like Ocean Beach.
There's so many things.
And stuff.
Fashion as well with the email
and I think
marketing.
that's an important thing, isn't it? Look outside the scope of your own business.
Yeah.
Just be open-minded to it.
Yeah.
Yes, you're in the football market, but you're in the business market.
Yeah.
You want to try and rewrite the book or reinvent the wheel and make it your own.
Yeah.
And I liked that. It's
and
basically
unique.
Yeah, that's it. And it's that there's another good quote to kind of sum that up, and I think it's Austin Kleon that says it again, and he goes, "There's no such thing as a unique message, just unique messengers."
No, I
love that. That sums
Perfect.
it up. That literally sums it up.
This episode is sponsored by the Online Growth Agency. These guys really are a one-stop shop for everything media-orientated. Whether it be a web design, a complete rebrand, or just your social media, They're the guys that are behind our website and our social media. I really do think you should check them out. www.theonlinegrowthagency.com.
So yeah, I think that's a really important message. The idea that it is all about bringing that personal spin to it. It's about being a unique messenger.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as really unique messages anymore.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think that's a brilliant point, and you're completely right. You have to try and be unique, and you have to try and actively be standing out.
Yeah.
And I think that's the only way it will work.
Definitely. I think touching back on that kind of earlier point, when you said the player from Iceland, he'd managed to find you guys and you'd ranked top of like the search engine.
Yeah.
I guess to even me or other kind of people starting up in that business, it might be overwhelming to think, God, like, how do I rank so highly? How do I get to this position?
Yeah.
But I mean, for you guys anyway, it'd be interesting to share a bit more of your story. When you was growing, AJ, you kind of grew that with no really initial capital, no kind of loans that were there. So I guess that just speaks to the fact that you can rank top of the search engine with no massive startup. So how did that work for you guys? How did you get to that?
So yeah, I think because it was either the last episode or the episode before, we mentioned it passively how we'd started up from nothing and it was all generated just from ourselves and stuff. And you actually made a point of, you think that most people would be surprised by that.
Yeah, I think they would.
And I don't lie about the fact that we was fortunate in our age. We were still living at home. We had a car. Yes, we had gym membership. Yes, we were paying for our phone. We was paying our way still at home. But in reality, to somebody who's got a mortgage, maybe got kids, the
level of risk.
There's a much, for us it was much less of a risk. But the principles still all remained exactly the same. Yeah. So yes, as much as we'd sort of started from nothing, the principles of the way we started would remain the same whether we did have a family and a mortgage or just because yes we was.
I think the only thing that would separate then was we just had more time to do it because we didn't have to worry about anything else. We wouldn't have, say, a person who has got a family is probably got a full-time job that's paying for that, so then they're doing it for 4 hours a night or whenever they can. We just had more time, which probably accelerated us. But the lessons that we did are still exactly the same and would still be the same if you had a family and a kid. So I just think there's loads of lessons that we've had to learn, whether it be how to edit videos, how to shoot videos, learn how to use social media, how to design a website, how
Facebook
to do
ads, etc. All sorts.
So many lessons have been learned.
Yeah.
And notice how not one of them was how to deliver a one-on-one.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah. So even beyond,
so much of the growth of the business has been credited to not just
what you're saying on the pitch.
It's the rest of the stuff, isn't it? Yeah.
No, it's interesting that actually I didn't
really think of it like that.
But all of that gets you in front of people.
Yeah.
The quality of the service on the pitch keeps them, because that's one I do like all the registers and stuff, and I keep track of all our players. So there was something that I was doing a couple of weeks ago. I had a bit of time throughout lockdown, and I was looking back at all the registers and stuff, and looking from day one how many players have stayed with us for a year and a half. Yeah. How many players have stayed with us and have we retained through coronavirus? And ultimately we're what's our overall retention rate of players? And it's genuinely above 95%.
Is it?
And
wow.
That's from day one as well. So from people that have stayed with us, and don't get me wrong, there's people that have dropped off along the way, whether it be financially, whether it be commitment. Reasons, there's a few other reasons, but every single time that a player decides to mention that they're not able to make the sessions anymore, we want to know why.
Yeah.
Not to be intrusive, not because we're nosy, but genuinely because. Is it something that we can bet from our service? Can we accommodate a better time slot for you? Is there anything that we can do before you go to make you reconsider it? And I'm confident in saying that we are yet to have our first person, or first player or parent, to not want to come to our sessions out of a complaint.
Yeah.
And it's all been, like I said, whether it be the financial commitment or whether it be the actual availability or training schedules changed, etc. We haven't got the availability to suit what they can suit. So not one of them has been sort of a complaining parent that's been unhappy with the service.
Yeah.
So your quality of service that you provide, I think, is what keeps them.
And it does. I know I touched a lot of stuff that is external, but if you haven't got that one key factor of a quality service, nothing else matters.
Yeah.
Doesn't.
No.
Nothing else matters.
So could you pin that down to being one of, like, pretty much the single most important thing for the start? At least?
Quality of service, I argue, is...
You know, if someone goes, where do I align my focus and attention to grow my business?
Yeah.
Would you say number one is that?
Quality of
1,000,000%.
service. And then as you grow, so say you can provide a quality service, you've got to learn a whole new skill set to figure out which other coach delivers a quality service. Because if you don't have that skill set of figuring out if that coach delivers a good service, then you might be hiring other coaches that aren't delivering a quality service, and then all of a sudden the level of your service dips. So you've got to, once you're at a point where you're comfortable knowing that you can deliver a quality service and you still want to grow and you want to get further, then you've got to develop that skill set of figuring out from other coaches and seeing if they're able to deliver a quality service too.
So, I mean, touching back on that earlier point you said about, I mean, you were saying there was skills you had to learn from, like, Facebook ads marketing, video editing, photo editing, just a bunch of these skills. And obviously that just takes so much time. You have to put in the hours to get really good at that. Now, some people might argue that, even at the early stages of business, I think that my time is more valuable than the money I could give to outsource that task. Now, for you guys are big on keeping things in-house, and for you guys especially, learning those skills yourself.
Yeah.
So, you know, how come you didn't take the approach of, especially in the position you're in now where the money's there, where you can outsource these tasks, but you're kind of more adamant on, I want to do this skill myself. So,
because I think our vision from when we started to where we are now hasn't changed.
Yeah.
Say if we've got to outsource tasks, you're putting responsibility, you're putting control in other people.
Yeah.
It then becomes not yours.
Okay, yeah.
So if we can do something and we can keep it ours and we can sort of keep, because as much as I could outsource something and tell them that this is the message that we want to portray, this is what we want to show through,
it's not from you, is it?
Whatever it is, they've not got the same vision as us. So they might be able to listen, but if they miss a key message or, you know, they don't end up portraying that because they don't genuinely believe in it, then it's not from us. It's not
you
us
lose
anymore.
that personal side of it. And
definitely.
we have been super keen to keep as much as that as possible as we continue to grow.
I guess it shows, doesn't it? Because the only kind of other content guy you have is me. And that's been a process of, we've worked together for ages, but luckily I guess we've just clicked on how kind of the visions have aligned. Or how
that's not just happened overnight, though. That's been you giving your time to come and stand at Bull and come and stand at Stockport for 3-4 hours a night, 3 times a week, to understand everything. Because ultimately, through our social media, that's where we try and share our main messages.
Yeah.
But you might be great at video editing and capturing the shots, but if you're not capturing the emotion in those shots,
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And so that's been the biggest sort of learning curve, is for you to fully understand every message we want to portray.
Buy into what age actually is.
Buy into, you know, buy into us, buy into
of course,
the way that we want it to go, buy into, you know, how we see it going forward. And I think that's been the biggest reason why bringing you on board has been so much fun still, and has been the right decision, is because you've actually spent so much time learning and understanding everything about it.
Kind of subconsciously, I think, just being
Probably,
around you guys.
Yeah,
I've got
maybe.
pretty good at footy as well, to be honest. But,
You said you pulled your hamstring just after doing a few keep jumps
keep
last
that
night.
quiet, lad. No, but I think you're right. So it's just balance. It's just balancing that thing of what is more valuable to me. Is my money more valuable, or is my time more valuable?
Yeah, because in the early stages, the reason we didn't outsource it is because we had no money.
Yeah.
There was just no chance we could afford it. And even now, you know, you start to get into that routine of where you're responsible for the video editing, you're responsible for the contacting of parents, the emails, and you enjoy it. And that's why I say it's got to be passion-led, because yes, right now we could probably outsource some jobs and make mine and Jack's life a bit easier, but we don't want to, because we enjoy it. So why? One, it's going to cost us more money, and two, it's going to take away that sort of self-satisfaction that I get out of doing these jobs and the happiness that I get out of doing my job. So it's just a no-brainer to just keep it the way it is.
Yeah.
But that only stems from the very root cause of having no money in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because who knows? We were young, we was naive, and yeah, if we had the money, we'd maybe spend a few £100 on videographers every couple of weeks.
But maybe it wouldn't have been to the stage it is now if that was the case.
Yeah, because maybe it wouldn't have been what we wanted it to be.
Yeah.
Or it maybe gets to 2-3 years and we'd be, because I'm confident in saying now, you know, we're building something that I'm going to enjoy, love to be a part of for years and years to come.
Yeah.
100%.
Whereas, yeah, you're right. If in the beginning it was outsourced a lot of work, like maybe 2-3 years time, I got bored or didn't enjoy it.
Everyone else is then doing the work.
Didn't think
so
that.
It's about being hands-on as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it seems to be about control, I guess.
In the right way.
In the right way, yeah.
Because I'd still like to say across the board with our coaches, with Jordan and Hugh in the office, like there's still a hell of a lot of flexibility there.
Yeah,
whether it's to be delivered, because we always say whenever we're hiring as well, like we don't want to have robots. Same way that we try and teach our players to be creative and, you know, adapt to the situation and not be a robot. We say that same message to our coaches.
Yeah.
Don't come and be a robot. Like, you're your own person. So as long as you're working in line with our company values and, you know, doing everything and the standards that we set, then outside of that is harmless.
Yeah.
So go ahead and be creative. Go ahead and enjoy your hour. You know, have a laugh with the kid. Like, we want to see that. Or if Jordan and Hugh, if anybody comes forward with a new idea, well, explore it then. Go for it, because we rate that creative side, and you need that creative side, I think, as well.
Definitely. It all seems to, I mean, just from, you know, someone from the outside looking in, it's always just a case of like, how did you manage to get and build such a strong team, and that's helped you to grow in this populated market.
Yeah.
But I'm really interested in kind of just like the building blocks, breaking things down, and then how you got there, and even just listening to how it's gotten now. I'm still like a bit overwhelmed. Like, I'm just like, how's it even got to this?
Well, I think that definitely for anyone listening to this episode, if you haven't listened to the previous episode about the team, and because we touch a lot more on the infrastructure on that one, don't we? So for sure, if you haven't checked that one out already, definitely add it to the queue after this one.
Yeah. I wanna go back to how you guys ranked top of the search engine. That's what's made me
search engine optimization, mate.
Yeah, it's just, if you don't know, get to know.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that what it was? Just like,
yeah. Again, probably listeners in here aren't really that bothered with what it is, but you basically in the back end of the website you can put in keywords and stuff so that it
basically program Google to say if someone searches this, show them this. If someone searches this, show them this.
Yeah.
But again, it does relate back to that was a skill that I learned because I knew how important it was. Yeah. And again, there's tons of people you can pay to do that for you, but it wouldn't have been us. It wouldn't have been me. So
I think it really is that, like you mentioned it before, I'd like starting up so young, you had that time to give and time to put in, and that's what's give you that head start to learn all these skills where other people might not have had the chance.
And again, I wouldn't really say it was a head start.
Yeah, okay.
It just allowed us to do more of it. Like even if we had full-time jobs or we did go to uni and we were doing full-time, we would still do it. We'd just do it after, and we wouldn't be able to do it as often as we did. So I agree. Yeah, it almost accelerated it because we did have more time to give, but we would have still done that anyway.
Yeah.
And everybody still can do that.
Prime example now, we don't need to, like when we talk about absolute necessary to keep the business running, we don't have to be here at 8:30 in the morning.
You don't need me to film videos for
you.
You
don't need you to film videos. We don't need to be sat here doing a podcast. No. We don't have to be trying to share our story. We don't have to be trying to create a community. We don't have to be doing everything that we do day to day. We could just turn up at sessions in the evening, 4 o'clock or 3:30, start setting up and then go home at night. Like, you know, we could still do that, but we choose not to because we still got a hell of a lot to learn.
And that's all led by passion.
It's all about desires. And I mean, I am mistaken saying it's a head start there because people with the biggest head start, even earlier than you guys, they might not want to do all those things and learn that skill. So
that's what I mean. It goes back to our very first point is you've got to figure out, are you that type of person who's going to be able to deal and cope with all that?
Yeah. I think something as well that, you know, I often question and when I am reflecting and stuff, think about is what is it that sets us apart from other people? Because and this is no sort of personal ego attachment, but the numbers don't lie. The amount of players we work with don't lie. The inquiries don't lie. The expansions don't lie. The staff don't lie. So there's clearly something working. And I often question, like, what is it?
Getting down to the root cause.
Getting down to the root of what is it? And we touched on it previously about 20 minutes ago, but it's got to be, for me, the quality of service. But with that comes with the quality of coaches, the quality of equipment, the quality of facilities. Oh my gosh, facilities are the biggest thing. And whenever I'm speaking to someone who's starting up or who's been going for some work, it attracts, one-to-one coaching attracts a lot of coaches onto council pitches or public parks, so they don't have to pay facilities. And these guys are still charging £25-30 an hour. So to put that into perspective, that's pretty much identical to what we're charging. So it's not like, for our facilities you're paying extortionate rates. We're doing it in a way where we're able to keep our prices pretty average, to be honest, and being able to provide unbelievable state-of-the-art facilities. And
they really are. The class.
They are. And that's credit to obviously all the facilities themselves, but it's everything that we go for, everything we look at. One thing that does make me proud personally is that we've never resulted to council pitches or public parks. And because we just feel like there's a massive drop in standards, being brutally honest. I feel like it's a massive drop of standards, because you might be a brilliant coach, right? But you're on an awful pitch full of dog poo and bobbles everywhere. And are you really, really, really going to be able to get the most out of that player? Probably not, because there's a certain time or a certain stage in the development where it comes to, like, your environment only takes you so far. The best players in the world, there's a reason their facilities are amazing. You don't see Man United's first team playing on Heaton Park on a hill, do you? Because you've got to have good facilities as well. Like, of course it's a luxury and of course it's a privilege, but there's also a purpose behind that.
Do you think a lot of kind of business then goes to like perception, how you come across? To some extent.
But again, that'll all only get you so far. That thing, I always say this.
It plays a part still.
Yeah, it does. And I'll break that down a little bit further. This is why me and Adam work class together. He is very much internal and very much external. Like, I could say to Adam, I'm going to get these people coming to us, but they might, if the internal isn't right, you'll get them for one session and they won't come back again. And that's no good. It's never, doesn't interest us that. So that's when it's sort of like, you're right, how you look and everything and stuff. It'll get them in. But
does it keep them there?
It's not. We're not interested in seeing how many people we can get in. We want to know how long they're going to be staying for and how long can we have an influence on them for. And that's why me and Ad work class together.
I think I sent you something, didn't I, the other day, because I knew we was recording this episode. And it was. Have you got it there to read out word for word?
Is it from the thread? Go on, do you want to have a little look at this? Which one are you on about?
That's the one there. You don't need a new idea to start a business. You just need to do something a lot of folks are already doing, but just do it a little bit better.
That sums it up perfectly, doesn't it?
I think that's absolutely spot on, because I want this podcast to be a place where private coaches specifically are going to get most benefit, albeit we tend to discuss topics that are quite business orientated, but bringing it back to just private coaching specifically is that point sums up the market, right? Because we personally know well over 50 coaches that just have a ball bag, a set of cones, and go onto a council pitch, which but I do not at all want to discredit those people, because that's absolutely fine if that's where your sort of standards and
if it's working,
if it's working for you, and that's where your values are aligned and stuff, then fair play. I always hats off to anybody who's making a success or trying to do something for themselves, because it's difficult. So hats off to those people. Personally, for us, that wasn't in our interest, and we wanted to grow on the best facilities, employ the best coaches, deliver the best service, and that's because we know that by doing that, we're going to be able to influence and impact a lot more players, do it in a positive way, and do it in the best possible way for the players' development. So that's been absolutely huge for us. So
just set very high standards from the start.
Very high standards from the start, yeah. And we talk about it so much, but very high standards from whatever they see online, from the second they make the inquiry, and everything is just a whole process. And no, we didn't start off like that. We never started on public pitches. It was always AstroTurf facilities.
Yeah.
But we used to do it on a bloody Sunday afternoon late when the rates were the lowest because the facility was dead.
Yeah.
So we got it. We was working the weirdest of hours, but just because we was getting the cheapest of rates. And that's because we were so, and at that point it was just me and Jack. So, money taken home out of that session genuinely was very, very minimal.
Not much.
Because as soon anybody who's in the game, it's no secret to know that AstroTurf pitches are expensive, especially if you only got one or two people doing it.
Yeah.
So, in short term, it wasn't the money that we was getting from it, but we knew that that's how we wanted to grow. We wanted to grow on the best facilities. So you had to sacrifice money for that.
It seems that you guys have had whilst you're doing all this stuff right now, you always have that kind of long-term vision in the back of your mind, it seems.
Yeah.
So how do you kind of like stay motivated to keep that vision there? With the ups and downs, like you were saying, business can just be so up and down, even on a daily basis.
Passion led.
Yeah.
It comes back to passion.
It's the first point I make, and I will say it till I'm blue in the face. It's passion led. Because if money was the motivating factor, bloody COVID would have got rid of us. Because anybody knows financially, COVID has screwed everybody up. So if it were financially driven, it certainly wouldn't have even. I'd argue whether it'd have made it up until COVID, but it certainly wouldn't have made it beyond COVID.
Yeah.
So the answer to the question, very, very simply put, is passion led.
And a lot of the decisions we make day to day, doesn't even, money doesn't even come into our mind. It's just always what is right for, what feels right by us and what feels right for the company.
Yeah.
Like Adam said, very much passion led.
Yeah. So I guess that is a key kind of message for people to take, that whenever you're going into a market that could be populated, unpopulated, make sure it's passion driven, make sure it's something you truly care about, and make it serve a purpose that's meaningful.
Yeah, and all agree with all that completely is the main points, but also being understanding and acknowledge the fact that the way you're going to feel is it's not going to be easy. You're going to be stressed out. You're going to be working countless hours. But ultimately, if it's what you want, then you're going to do it.
I think that's, sorry to interrupt, but I think that's the point. Kind of the message I want people to take from this is that when they see this like very polished, kind of finished AJ service, they don't realise all that stuff that's happened prior to that, and like the hours.
They don't, and it's
that's what people are going through at the startup stage, aren't they?
But it's also I think we might be saying the same thing. It's always crazy to hear when people come up and say like the final product or polished service.
I know you guys think it's not.
It's not for us.
No.
It's not for us because our vision hasn't changed from when we set out at day one, and where we're at now is nowhere near our vision.
It's nowhere near our vision. What you're saying, I completely agree with. As over the last sort of year and a half, it has seriously been professionalised. Like the service, not even just on the back end of it, but the service itself has been professionalised to where now I am super happy with the service that each and every one of our coaches provide, and I really do believe it's one of the most professional around. And that's going off feedback from other parents. That's not even just because we're suckers for feedback. We love to ask for feedback, whether it just be passing comment when the parents dropping the player off, or whether it be we do a big feedback campaign where everyone gets an email. Like, we're mega on
that
feedback.
goes back to being like self-reflective.
Reflective, yeah. Well. So that's not even sort of the words from me personally. That's from parents and the players that we're working with day in, day out. So yeah, it's certainly improved and got a hell of a lot better from a year and a half ago. And I really am happy with the service that's being provided. But like Jack said, the vision is much more. And, things like this, it's a way of documenting it as well. Because,
big time.
For us, even if it's just something we use selfishly, if in 2, 3, 4, 5 years' time, we completely wipe the podcast off Spotify, we have all these recordings as a bit of a diary. So, and I don't see it going like that, but that's worst case scenario. So it's just having a platform like this to be as transparent as possible and just share our journey, because like we mentioned right at the start, we don't advocate ourselves as the gurus, or because we still don't believe we've achieved anything near to what we want to achieve. And we are biggest people in saying that you never stop learning, which is why we're still here at 8:30 in the morning, which is why we're still on the pitch 6 days a week, which is why we do all the work internally, because it's a buzz. It's weird to explain it to somebody.
I think you have to be there in the office to feel that buzz. Like,
probably
you do.
But even anybody in a similar position or starting up, like they'll also know and understand the buzz. Because if your idea or if your business gives you a buzz, like that's powerful. And it's that's going to drive you.
It's something I was listening to. I think it was a YouTube video, and he was saying that when it comes to like what you want to do in your life, it's that thing that you think about before bed and the thing you think about in the shower. And like, I'm guessing for you guys that still is AJ.
All the time. All the time.
And it's important, isn't it? It's like, what is on the back of your mind? What's always on your mind?
I get in trouble for not switching off or wanting to go on the laptop at 10 at night, or
I think you two are both the same for that.
Answering a call, like, so it's very much still there. It's just now trying to keep it healthy, because you burnout's a real thing, and
that's for another
and maybe
podcast
that's another
topic, isn't it?
But keeping it healthy, because rest is important as well.
Love that. You got any kind of final take home messages for the listeners?
Passion led. It's gonna be scary. Try and be unique in whatever way.
In fact, you have to be unique.
You have to be unique, but in whatever way that is, we're not able to say, because that's on you as an individual. Make it unique, be creative, and just don't get bogged down with all the competition. Try use it to your advantage.
I'd say just my 2 pieces: that have fun with it.
Just have fun. That's a good point to finish on.
Love that then.
Yeah.
Cheers for your time today, boys.
No problem.
No, I've enjoyed
Appreciate
this
that.
one.
Yeah.